name is David Glazier. I work for Ramboll. I've worked for Ramboll for the past 6 years. We're a global design and engineering company. And my role at Ramboll has been the Global Major Projects Director. And prior to joining Ramboll, I've spent the best part of 30 years involved with the delivery of major infrastructure projects, both in the UK and overseas. I've had various roles as consultant, project manager, delivery partner, client and contractor. And I'd like to talk about the Delivery Manifesto key principle, collaborative in nature. Speaking about collaboration in the context of major infrastructure projects, as projects become larger and more complex in nature, the need for collaboration amongst the delivery stakeholders becomes more and more essential in order to drive certainty of outcome. And some of the key benefits I feel that collaboration provides includes providing clarity, a single outcome focus that generates a win-win environment that helps to develop trusted relationships, which improves communication and ultimately optimizes the team dynamic. I think collaboration also provides positivity, a good feel-good environment, which ultimately motivates people to realise their full potential. It also helps to reduce confrontation and disputes, which, as far as I'm concerned, is wasted energy. And it also supports effective decision making. And ultimately, all these elements help you to reduce risk when it comes to project delivery. And I'd like to maybe try and articulate this a bit more by sharing a couple of examples I've had in the past from a major projects background. So first of all, if we just talk about High Speed 1, I was involved with High Speed 1 for about 7 years actually. And there was a particular sub-programme called London Tunnels. And that involved tunnelling under London, basically from St Pancras to Dagenham, right across the east end of London. We had 4 separate contractors delivering the sub-programme. 3 of them were involved with the tunnelling, and 1 was involved with the construction of something called the Stratford Box, which ultimately supports the Stratford International Station. It's a 1 kilometre diaphragm wall box. And the particular contractor involved in constructing the box was also responsible for the surface logistics, particularly associated with spoil removal from tunnels and getting tunnel segments into the tunnels. However, when I get involved in the project, there's a lot of friction between the contractors, the programme manager, the designers and the client. There was no real incentive to collaborate, even though it was obvious that collaboration would help that programme to be delivered. And consequently, we forecast time delays and cost overruns fairly early on in the programme. And just an example of what that environment was like, we used to have monthly progress meetings, and they took 2 full days. And there was lots of conflicting data around and failure to agree positions. So it wasn't a very positive place to be. So the solution to this challenge was I worked closely with the client and then ultimately the contractors to actually modify the contractual conditions to create a win-win shared responsibility across the programme. And we formed something called the London Tunnels Alliance, which brought in all of the key delivery stakeholders. We also created an alliance umbrella contract and a single target price across all of the contractors, which also included the client contingency. And that allowed us actually to upfront absorb all the compensation event risk, variation risk. There was no confrontation and disputes about changes because it was all built into the contractual mechanism. We formed an alliance board with the project directors of each of the contractors, the client director, and I myself get involved as the commercial director for the alliance. And we also formed a single alliance PMO rather than having 5 separate setups. And that helped to improve reporting and consistency, which then supported effective decision making from the board. In practical terms, then, we were able to drive behaviours to share logistics. So I mentioned about tunnel spoil and segment reduction. So we took a single alliance approach to spoil disposal and procured single spoil conveyor systems and drove economies of scale. And we also worked out that we could establish a manufacturing facility for the segment production on site, which was really useful. We could have 24/7 working and produce segments right next to where they needed to be supplied to. And we also were able to take a kind of Six Sigma lean view of life in a collaborative way that really drove further efficiencies. So we worked out the best way as a collaborative to take spoil out of tunnels and spread it on land, and how to get segments into tunnels and all that good stuff. So the result of this was basically we created a single effective collaborative team with a single focus on certainty of outcome. We drove efficiency savings through joint thinking and economies of scale. We ultimately completed the project 6 months early, £40 million under budget. I mentioned the monthly progress meetings that painfully took 2 days. Ultimately, they were 1 hour. Everyone was on the same page, a lot more efficient. And one of the key outcomes of that project was it was a key enabler for London being awarded the 2012 Olympics, having established the Stratford International Station next to the proposed Olympic site. That then kind of brings me on to the second example, which is actually London 2012 Olympics, specifically the enabling works, which was a real critical path piece of work for the Olympic venue delivery, the Olympic Park delivery. It involved taking possession of land, demolition, site remediation, and forming the platforms that all the various venues had to be constructed on, including the main stadium, the aquatic centre, the velodrome, etc. In order to do that, the site had previously been split in 2 and procured with 2 contractors, one in the north and one in the south. One of the issues we had there was no incentive for these 2 contractors to actually collaborate, even though they were kind of working alongside each other with a really constrained logistical environment. And the contracts that had been used to procure these contractors were legacy, and they'd been poorly procured. For example, we'd identified that the key dates for the main stadium and the aquatic centre site preparation were actually stated in enabling works contractors' contracts as being 1 year behind when the building contractors needed to commence construction of the stadium and the aquatic centre. So there was a 1 year delay, just like that. There was lots of friction between the contractors, again, the project manager, designers, and client, and we were forecasting real significant delays of 1 year plus and cost overruns. And obviously, when you've got an immovable date of the Olympic, the Olympics of London 2012, you absolutely cannot have any delays. So we needed to come up with a solution to this challenge. So again, we looked at creating a win-win share responsibility environment. So we created enabling works single team for all the delivery stakeholders with a team umbrella supplementary agreement, which introduced completion incentives for the key dates. Again, a single target price. So the contractors were driven then to collaborate with each other rather than confront each other. We also absorbed the compensation event risk again by the client including their contingency in the target price, and a single team board, a single PMO again, and again we were able to then drive the behaviours to share logistics and solutions, drive efficiency and economies of scale using shared resources. It was very effective. So the result, ultimately, a win-win again. Single focus and certainty of outcome, efficiency savings, joint thinking, economies of scale. Completed 3 months early and 100 million under budget. And again, this was a key enabler for the successful delivery of London 2012 Olympics. Had we not done this, we would have really put that commencement date under pressure. So in summary, with regards to collaboration, some key messages from this major infrastructure project context. Procurement is key. Create a win-win environment. The contracts used should enable collaboration, not create confrontation, which they often do. So you kind of really need to have the vision up front as to what delivery stakeholders are going to be involved, and how can I procure in such a strategic way that drives the behaviours for everyone to work together and collaborate. Collaboration, unfortunately, doesn't just happen. It needs to be planned and it needs to be worked. Collective decision making and the associated buy-in with that is really powerful. It makes you more informed in terms of decisions, and also makes decisions more sustainable in the long run and supported. And this is helpful if it can be supported by single source of truth, accurate consensus, data and reporting. So finally, in summary, I would say that where I've been involved in truly collaborative endeavours to deliver major projects, they've been enjoyable to work on and always delivered successful outcomes. However, where I've been involved in non-collaborative endeavours, these have typically been confrontational, invariably resulting in delays and cost overruns. And therefore, I would always push collaboration as an effective delivery solution.